Okay, students, so we are about 40% through the semester. That means we have 15 weeks of class. We are currently at week 6. We are up to discussion board number 3. I have maybe about 6 or so students who've completed the discussion board, maybe a little more. I have only a handful of students who've done the Connect. So a lot of the work at this point is just primarily Connect, primarily discussion boards, and we have our midterm coming up in very soon, and we have our first main project coming up. So if you're behind, you got to catch up. It's more challenging to try to catch up on 6 weeks of work on week 8 than it is trying to catch up to 15 weeks of work on the 15th week. So the sooner you can get started, the sooner you can get started, the better. The discussion board has questions that are specific to the textbook, but a lot of it you could also find outside the textbook. So if you're having financial issues with Connect or SimNet, I recommend you pay for Connect first before SimNet. Connect is much more important in terms of completing and passing the class. You can complete your discussion boards with Connect. You can complete your Connect assignments, and you can study for the midterm and final, which is 50% of your grade. So get access to Connect as soon as possible. You can log into SimNet at a later time if it's a financial constraint that you're having. The other thing is that for the discussion boards, you can actually find the answers. They're very standard business textbook questions. So if you're having financial issues with that, don't let that hold you back from completing the discussion board. A quick Google search can help you find those answers, and you can start completing it in the interim. So that way, when the midterms come, you can start catching up and studying on the midterms. Without further ado, I'll move forward with our class. So this one's about entrepreneurship, which is actually one of the courses I teach, not just here at BMCC, but I teach across many CUNYs. In fact, entrepreneurship is more so my specialty as a professor. This is sort of very basic, going over very basic concepts. It's not even really going over what most students would care about with entrepreneurship. Students want to know, how do I start my business? Things of that sort. This is just going over sort of definitions and things of that sort. So an entrepreneur, their definition of entrepreneur is accepting the risk of starting and running a business. And they give a bunch of entrepreneurs, notable entrepreneurs. And it's interesting because you have this French immigrant from 1802. So the concept of a business entity and the concept of risk dates back to like pre-colonial times, when you had these sort of ventures to go and bring back spices and engage in trade. It required capital, money. So you can invest into an opportunity to say, hey, we need to put together a crew to go and to India or wherever, China, the Americas, bring back some loot. So you need skilled people, you need someone to manage the voyage, you need all this stuff. You got to put a team together, it costs money. So that's where the maritime law, which pertains to law, according to admiral law dealing with oversea the seas, maritime law, and also English law as well. And you see that the main idea of the business entity was to absolve those who are managing an opportunity of risk, such that if I collected, I'm going to just throw a number, $10 million, I could put together a business venture to go get spices from India, hire a crew. That boat could capsize. We lose everything, right? You're out of money. But the business entity was devised such that legally that we, whoever the people that own the business or running the business, are not held responsible. So it was there to sort of protect the interest of those who were putting together these ventures, so you couldn't sue them if you lost your money. Oh well, too bad. And I'm a millionaire or whatever amount of money during that time. I doubt it's a millionaire, but whatever amount of money it was during that time, you can't sue me and come after my personal assets because that's separate. So a lot of those laws to protect individuals and laws that govern maritime laws are sort of emblematic of the laws we have today. You can set up a C corp. Your business can go bankrupt, and people are suing your business, but they can't sue you because the business is its own thing, right? Let's imagine your favorite bank, Chase Bank or Citibank, does some crazy, heinous, horrible thing, goes under, which happened in 2008. They all this fraud and fraudulent stuff and bad things, and everyone's suing them, or people are going to jail. But if you own shares in the corporation, you own stock in the banks, you're not going to jail, right? You're just a participant. Why should I go to jail? I just own the company. So that sort of idea stems from pre-colonial law in terms of ownership of business, removing liability, things of that sort. So that's why the word risk is associated with the word entrepreneurship, because the whole function of it is about mitigating or transferring risk in terms of ventures. So I'm going to continue on now. If you have any questions, just say something in the chat or raise your hand, but say something in the chat because it'll come up in the chat bubble for me. So I'm going to skip a lot of this. So this is important. An intrapreneur. So an intrapreneur is someone who is engaging in entrepreneurial skills, abilities, but they're working in a corporation. So a lot of times when we think about entrepreneurship, we're thinking, oh, that's pertaining to someone who has a business, is running a business, is owning a business. But in actuality, the entrepreneurial skill set is very much necessary working for a company. So if you work for Starbucks and you have to decide if you want to open up 10 new locations, how do you figure that out? What type of capital do you need to open up those locations? Type of staffing, financing, things of that sort. So if you're in a management position, an upper management position, or maybe a middle management position at Starbucks, you're a part of this decision-making process. Your team is putting together the hiring, the HR. You're talking with your contractors who are doing the build out, your different components that are responsible for creating a new Starbucks. And likewise, the same people that may be deciding, oh, this Starbucks is underperforming, should we close it down? So all those skill sets are the same skill sets you would use as an entrepreneur. Instead of you working for Starbucks, what if you own your own coffee shop? Or you owned your own restaurant? And you had to make a decision, is it now is a good time to open up a second location, a third location, a fourth location, a fifth location? Or if you have 5 locations, which one's performing the worst? Which one's performing the best? Does it make sense to keep one? Does it make sense to close down, to shut down your lease when your lease is up and open up something somewhere else? So a lot of those decisions are entrepreneurial decisions. And a lot of the math and finance and strategy you use and learn in those entrepreneurship classes and business classes, particularly your MBA. So in your undergrad, your guys are taking undergraduate classes right now. Your undergraduate classes go over very basic business ideas. A lot of it's mostly introductory. A lot of it's mostly going over, I want to say, definitions, terms. So sort of helping you understand what all this means. But once you do a master's in business, that's when you actually learn, really when you learn business. That's when you actually start to understand, how do I grow and scale a business? What are the ways we do that? There are exceptions, obviously. Certain the higher level business classes you take here, you may not necessarily take them at BMCC. But when you transfer to be out of BMCC and you go to, let's say, a business college, let's say you go to Baruch or something, or any four-year college that has a four-year business program, the higher level business courses go over more so about concepts you'll actually use, especially the finance courses, the math and the strategy you actually use to figure out how to do high level business decisions. So entrepreneurs are people taking those skills, but they're applying it necessarily to the business itself. So micropreneurs are sort of home startup businesses. Um, it's a term they use. It's a term you need to be familiar with and understand as far as your test is concerned. But usually we just refer to as startups. Some of the reasons why you'll see people start up businesses is the same reason why a lot of people are interested in starting a business. Um, they're interested in being independent, growing their own, having control over their own wealth, their own finances. Um, but this is not necessarily on the exam, but 90% of businesses actually fail. Uh, Startup businesses don't succeed. The vast majority of them actually wind up failing. And these are some of the reasons you may have that, but most of it's poor planning. They're just planning poorly about how to start the business and not taking into consideration um, a lot of factors that if you look at an actual business plan, and I may share it, if someone's interested, you can post in the chat. I'll send it to you directly, or I'll post it on the announcements if someone's interested. But if you look at an actual business plan, there's multiple components to an actual business plan. If you look at those components to a business plan, each of those components is a part of your business that you should be taking in consideration, that you need to plan for, think about, create, or innovate or work on. And whenever a business fails, it's usually because of one of those components. They run out of cash, the expenses are too high, something. So when you're having issues with your business, you're having a struggle with your startup business, your home-based business, you just get a good old-fashioned business plan. You also do what's called business canvas plan, a little different. And you look at the components, so the table of contents of what a business plan is, and you look at each individual part, and then you start to analyze your own business using each of those parts, and you go through it. And that's where you can begin to find or settle on where your weaknesses or your shortcoming is. And then you can use different tools to figure out how to improve upon that. I'm going to go to the online business. Online businesses are definitely something that didn't exist 30 years ago. You didn't have online businesses the way they are today. Now, a lot of business is conducted online. There's something called Porter's Five Forces, and it's a way to analyze a business environment. One of the analytical sections is called threat of new entrants. That means how easy it is for a new person or a new business to enter into an industry. I would say online business has become easier to enter into because you have all these tools. You can use eBay, you can use Etsy. If you're selling collectible cards, you could use a TCG player. If you're selling anything, if anything, you can even find tools to help you structure. If you're a therapist doing psychological therapy, there's online tools where you could literally just have a website, plug the tools on your website, and now you can have a whole database to keep your clients, to accept payments, merchant services, all of that. So the technology and the online component has made it much easier to actually enter into business, begin a business, start a business. And I think it's actually made it more competitive because you could be sitting on your butt in your house doing business, buying and selling things out of your garage or your basement, which is actually a friend of mine. That's what he does. I'll tell you about him in a minute. And you got the guy across the street who has paying rent for his store or her store. My friend does 1.3 million in sales, and he's say that again. I can't really hear you too well. Are you referring to us in the class, or are you just talking? So he's doing over $1 million in sales. He works from home. Obviously, in case you're wondering, he works nonstop. He's selling probably tens of thousands of parcels of shipping back and forth. He does collectibles and stuff like that, back and toys and things, back and forth every day, multiple times a day, dealing with returns and things nonstop. How much do you think he makes on that? So he's doing 1.3 million in revenue. What do you think his profits are? So he's $1 million is coming into his business, and he's buying damn near $1 million of supplies of product. He's doing about 15%. So doing $1 million in sales is giving him about a little over $100,000 of profit at the end of his business. So that's important to know because sometimes when you hear a big number, oh, this restaurant's doing $500,000 of sales, that's not their profit. That's just how much they're selling, right? Profit is what they have after expenses. But the point is that 30 years ago, he wouldn't be able to do this business, right? He'd have to have a physical location. He'd be sending out mailers and maybe some emails that I don't know. There's no emails that 30 years ago, none.
Is it drop shipping?
Say that again about drop ship.
Oh no, I was like, is that like what his business is, or is it like a different kind of business?
So he sells collectibles like toys, action figures, uh, this random crap. But I'll tell you how he started. It's not traditional. It's not something I would advise someone doing. It's really not even something like honorable. But this is how he started. Um, he used to work. He was an employee. Worked for a guy. He made like 35,000 a year, 40,000 a year. You know, doing working for an a-hole boss, essentially, someone that you would really didn't appreciate him, would use him and things. So he's making like little nothing, but he's had very good mercantile skills. Okay, so he'd sell some stuff on eBay here and there. He'd buy something low, flip it high, that type of stuff. So he kind of got into some weird thing where he's more regulated now, but during the maybe early 2000s, late 2000s, you had credit card companies which would offer rewards on your credit card, 3% cash back, 5% cash back, 10% back in certain categories is a big thing with American Express and so on and so forth. And you had all these gift cards that would do the same thing. And that was before the industry was very regulated. So you had people buying gift cards, thousands of dollars of gift cards, using their credit cards. Okay, this is before it was regulated. So I would buy $100 gift card using a credit card that gave me 5% cash back. You can't do that anymore, by the way. So I'd buy dollar for dollar, $100 gift card, $100 on my credit card. I'd get 5% cash back. I'd cash the gift card back in minus the fee. The fee might have been like $3 or something, less than the 5% cash back. The difference between the spread of my rewards versus the fee of the gift card, 5% minus, let's say, a $3 fee, whatever the fee was, that's my profit. So these guys would buy tens of thousands of dollars, 50,000, $100,000 of gift cards across everywhere and anywhere you can imagine. And then they just cash the gift cards in. And then they'd have like tens of thousands of dollars of reward points on their credit cards. And they just kept doing this. And they eventually the banks and the gift card companies caught on, and they started putting restrictions, and they started you can't buy this with a gift card, or you need to come in person, use your debit card, your driver's license, because they were just getting really good at it. And then they'd figure out ways to get around the system. So my friend was in like this little group, like an entrepreneur group, and he heard about it and he started doing that. And he would make like $20,000 a year in just gift cards. And the group of those types of individuals start shifting away from credit cards, because what he did wasn't illegal, but it's kind of, started moving away from credit cards. And they started, and you could do this now. This is just literally people are doing this now. Like if you're familiar with Pokemon cards, my daughter likes Pokemon cards. If you go to Target to buy Pokemon cards, it's like $50 for a box of Pokemon cards. They're crazy expensive. And some of the cards, Charizard, it's like $150 for $300, $10,000 for some of these cards because they're so rare. So people collect Pokemon cards. They collect tons of Pokemon cards. Nintendo probably sells like they make billions of dollars of just Pokemon cards, Pokemon stuff. It's crazy. I was looking at the revenue figures. So what some people do, and this is just something people know. You go to TikTok, they have TikTok deals, TikTok sales. People will create an account from TikTok, get it to give them a Pokemon deal at a store that's advertising for Pokemon, and they'll buy a box of Pokemon for like whatever the price, the retail price, 50% off, 30%, 40% off, and they'll flip it back on eBay for more. And that's what, and then it's kind of grifting type of stuff, but people are doing that, and they've always been doing that. So the whole credit card thing I was telling you about, the gift card thing, a lot of people were when the restrictions, the credit card companies started reducing that ability to do so. Some of them started getting into doing stuff like that. So my friend was getting these coupons online. I don't know how and where, and he's getting these coupons. I think back then, you register for this newsletter, register your email address, get 20% off the first time you buy, and then you just make new emails, stuff like that. It's more regulated now. It's hard to do type of stuff, but see, he was buying like Ninja blenders and stuff. And he was getting all these discs from Sears before Sears went under. Kohl's, Sears, using their discounts. And then he would flip it back on eBay and Amazon for full retail price, because people that buy at Amazon don't check the prices. And he was doing like 6 figures of sales. I remember saying, dude, what are you doing? Why don't you start a real business? Stop being like this weird, scummy guy flipping stuff online.
Kind of like a reseller.
Yeah, he's a reseller. He didn't never did anything. Nothing he did was illegal. He found a way to buy something for cheaper and resold it for more. But I'm like, you're making 6 figures of revenue doing this weird reselling business. I said, find a distributor. You have like 3 years of sales. You have excellent credit. Start distributing. Sell real products. So that's what. So now he sells real product. He's an honest. He sells real product. But the point is, though, is that that's a phenomenal amount of mercantile skill, entrepreneurial skill to do what he did. So you couldn't do that 30 years ago. So online business has made it very easy. And the other thing is, just if you're a shopper that's buying things, you can find most things. You don't have to pay full price for it, but you have to know where to look. So anyway, I'm going to continue on. I think the story was important because it's a real story. It helps you understand business a little more. This is they said a comprehensive business plan. I would say the order of it's not really appropriate to what a traditional business plan is, but I do want to go over this to you guys because I think it's important. So when you have a business plan, the executive summary is a summary of your entire business plan. The company background is information about your company. The management team is who's running the business. That's you and you're the owners of the business. The financial plan, the financials, which is your income statement. So that's the money that you're going to make, what type of assets you're going to have for the business, and what type of cash flow, and you sort of write it out in a certain specific way called an income statement. Capital requirement is kind of tied to the financial plan, usually comes after it. What do you need to start the business is your capital requirements. Your marketing plan, usually the 4 Ps of marketing, price, promotion, those things, how you intend to market it, your customer, maybe customer acquisition, how much is it going to cost to get customers, how much do you plan to make on customers, marketing day, like how much do your customers buy on average, so the psychographics and demographics of your customer. That's probably the most important thing on your marketing plan, is understanding who is your customer, what's their demographics, how do they shop, who are they, how much do they spend per year, and then how you're going to reach them, how you're going to target them, what's that going to cost. That's your marketing plan. Your location analysis is usually, this might actually come sooner, like after company background, you might discuss about your location, but you also have the location come after the capital requirement. Location is where you're going to be. Okay, so we have 10 minutes left. That's discussing literally, am I going to be in New York? What neighborhood, what area, why, what's the benefit of that area? Foot traffic, things of that sort. Then here, manufacturing plan. That depends on what you're doing, but it really should be called the operating plan, how you tend to operate and run the business. So it's your operations plan. That would also include things such as where you're going to be doing your manufacturing, how many employees you have, how you're going to manage employees, structure the employees, things of that sort. And you can always take a look at something like this, and this gives you a very good idea of how to sort of analyze your business if there's issues or problems going on with it. Now, financing your business, I'm just going to tell you real quick. If you're starting up with your business, you can get a loan through something called the SBA. S, the letter S, B, and A is an Apple. Small Business Administration. They lend to individuals such as yourself, myself if I needed to, and they'll give you a loan to start your business. I've actually, one of my friends, another friend, him and his business partner started their sandwich shop. They're actually in St. Mark's. It's called Send My Sandwich Shop, XE space MAY. They started their business on an SBA loan. One partner had a sizable amount of cash. The other partner did not, but had impeccable credit. So I had told him, I said, start your own entity. Register your own entity. He was working for a film company. He was making a pretty nice, almost six-figure salary. So he had the income. He had excellent over 700 credit. So I had told him, I said, you could apply for SBA. And SBA will lend you money if you have a job and have good credit. You don't have to have a business yet. It's to help businesses start. So I explained to him, I said, they'll lend you up to $50,000 to $100,000 because you have good income, you have good credit. They know if your business goes under, because you have good income and good credit, you could go back and start working and pay off your loan. So they'll lend you. He just needed a business plan in order to get the financing. So I had explained that his business partner had terrible credit, but he had all the cash. He had cash. So I told him to start your own entity, separate from your partner. Apply, create a business plan. Apply for the SBA loan. You'll get approved for some sort of funding. I think you need like maybe 760 credit score at the time. It changes. And based upon your income, I'd said you at least get 50,000. And he did. So then after he got the funding, the financing for his share of the business, they restructured the corporation that my friend set up individually to then include the partner after the fact. Because if they structured the corporation with both partners on it, he would have had to do a credit check with both partners on it. And because the other partner had really bad credit, they wouldn't have gotten approved. So he did individually by himself, got it. Then after the fact, they restructured together. And they've been in business for, I think it's been over 10 years. That was like 2010. It's gotta be like, oh my God, maybe they're on their second year lease. They might be close to 14 or 13 years. They've still been in business. So they do very well. I've been kind of telling them they should start a second location, but I guess you get comfortable sometimes. So the SBA loan is the most likely way you'll get individual financing for your business. The more realistic way people get it, if they don't have good credit, is friends and family, private investors, crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is a thing now. There was no crowdfunding 20 years ago; it didn't exist. But those are ways you could start your business, and the SBA will continue to lend to you. Okay, so SBA lends through individual banks like Chase Bank, Citibank, major banks. If my friends wanted to go back and set up a second location, they can go there to SBA, get a six-figure loan, and start a second location tomorrow if they wanted to. So I recommend SBA. And SBA has a ton of services for entrepreneurs, free services, free consultation. I use SBA. They'll do marketing research for you. If you're a veteran, they literally roll out the red carpet for veterans. That whole veteran, I think it's SDC, I think it's called. They have tons of resources.
Would you also be able to apply if you're franchising rather than like opening up your own business?
Yeah, of course. So as long as you have the credit and the income, they'll lend you. So if you said I wanted to start a new franchise, like let's say like Subway's back in the day, around 2008, Subway was blowing up. You could get into a franchise for like 50,000, 45,000 back then, maybe less. And he went to SBA and said, "Look, I work for a job. I make 60,000 a year. I have 700 something credit score. I want to take out money to invest in this franchise." They'll lend it to you. Absolutely. So depends on the franchise. Some franchise McDonald's requires like $1 million something dollar deposit for a franchise. So
McDonald's, Spaghetti, Starbucks, they all require like 1 million.
yeah, it's
But
expensive.
I work for a franchise, and I think the starting is like around 50.
Which franchise is that?
Okay. Gongcha.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Gongcha, it's
yeah.
a bubble.
I know them. Yeah, I see them all over the place. That's a good thing to get into, right? That's
Yeah,
a good.
like I would like to like franchise one in the future.
Well,
But yeah,
if you have a business partner that has a full-time job and good credit, something to look into.
hopefully.
I had a client probably like 20 years ago. I mentioned Subway because he was a client. He was my client at the time. He started his Subway's franchise. Uh, his grandma had owned a home, and she had a home equity line of credit, and she took out money from the equity in her house to help fund his first Subway's franchise. And by the time I met him and his wife, they had like 14 locations by that time. So however you can get financing to do something, that's the way to do it. But a lot of small franchises like the one you mentioned, they're usually very cheap to jump into because they're trying to grow and expand very quickly. Once they become very stable and large
Yeah.
and successful, the franchise expenses become very, very high. Score. Score is good if you're looking for mentorship, business mentorship. Um, make sure you Google Score in regards to small business. You don't want to pull up anything fallacious with the Score. All right, so I guess we're finished early today with this, but I just want to get into, obviously there's definitions here. I just want to get into one thing in particular that sometimes is on the exam. They'll go, sometimes they ask about definitions of different entities. There's the S Corp, C Corp, LLC, you see like LLP, and you'll see sole proprietor. Sole proprietorship is where you own the business. It's independently owned by you. It's under your name. You have all the risk if you have a sole proprietorship. An S corporation is its own corporation, but all the money, all the income expenses flows through you as an individual. You have less risk as an S corp. A C corp is its own entity. That means that it's like a McDonald's, it's like a Wendy's, it's like a Chase Bank, it's like a Target. It's its own living, breathing entity, right? So anything happens to Target, it's Target. You're not on the hook, you're not on the line. It's completely separate. An LLC is a limited liability corporation. Limited liability corporations, usually they're for like you'll see different businesses have that. They're generally more flexible than a C corp, and they limit the liability. You'll see like real estate property sometimes held in LLCs, and you'll see LLPs where you'll see like doctors' practices. They have limited partnerships where there's multiple doctors or multiple practitioners coming together. So class, just make sure you complete your discussion board assignments. If you haven't already, set up your Connect. And if you need any help with anything, do not hesitate to reach out to me. Okay? Take care, everybody.